Everything under control?
Have I got things to tell you?
What happened?
I'm engaged.
Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl? I am.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick. A Coen brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet.
A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel. Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeak.
There's so many new ways to revisit sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update.
But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Nobody's perfect. This sentence is a complete independent clause because it contains both a subject and a predicate. The word nobody's serves as the subject, and the apostrophe S indicates a contraction of nobody is. The word nobody is an indefinite pronoun that refers to the absence of any person. The verb is functions as a linking verb that connects the subject to its subject complement. The word perfect is an adjective acting as the subject's complement because it describes the subject. Overall, the sentence asserts that no person possesses the quality of perfection. The sentence, nobody's perfect, also has quite a presence in popular culture. It's the title of songs by Madonna, Hannah Montana, and Jessie J. New Yorker film critic Anthony Lane's 2002 book is called Nobody's Perfect, and the sentence's witty spoonerism, "Pobody's nerfect," was cemented into our collective consciousness thanks to shows like The Simpsons, The Office, The Good Place, and Futurama. But the most famous use of the sentence "Nobody's perfect" is likely the final line in this week's movie. Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods. I'm John, joined as always by my brother Dan. And on this episode, we're talking about the 1959 Billy Wilder comedy Some Like It Hot. And since this season of Ruined Childhood celebrates movies that have titles that are complete sentences, it would be criminal to not talk about Some Like It Hot. Dan, hot or cold, what is your preference?
Hot.
I appreciate that you didn't ask me any follow-up questions.
Here's my explanation to why I didn't ask you a follow-up question.
Okay.
I'm used to, I play these games first of all, welcome, whether you're returning, whether you're new, we welcome you. So, as you may or may not know, my job is that of teacher of language arts, and I do frequently play these games with my students where it's like this or that, and I tell them, you have to, you have to go with as much specificity as you are given in this, and you take it from there. So my mind did a very quick calculation of overall, do I prefer hot or cold weather? Do I prefer hot or cold food? Do I prefer, this is what was going on. This is behind the curtain here. And I mean, there's no curtain. I'm bald, but, behind the dome. So that was kind of what was going on. And I just thought, what made it even more difficult, John, is being a Libra. I have a very hard time with those two extremes. Cause I'm like, I like moderate, I like warm. I like temperate.
I was having a conversation last night about it's astrology. That's that one, right?
Yes.
Astronomy is stars. Okay.
Yes.
Well, like actual
And
stars.
science.
Okay. So yes, science. Right. Exactly. So, I was having a conversation last night about astrology and whether or not I know anything about it, which the answer is absolutely no. And I did not even know that you were a Libra, and I don't know the characteristics of a Libra, but now you have educated me that it is, wanting the middle ground, wanting more than just the polar options. Is that kind of what I'm hearing here?
Well, so being the symbol of the Libra sign is the scales. Libra is like balance.
True. Yeah.
So Libras don't tend to like extremes. Now, some might say because I'm a Libra on the Scorpio cusp, that I would have some Scorpio tendencies, but I'm not really. I am much more of the textbook Libra in so many ways. One of those being difficulty making decisions, and it's definitely taken some work with myself and okay, you have to make a decision. This is these are your metrics. This is your rubric. This is how you're making a decision. So that's why between hot and cold, I had to think of like, okay, well, I do have I have a preference for warmer weather, and usually I'm like, right now I could go for warm food. So anyway, John, to not spend any more time than is necessary, what's your preference?
Between the two, hot. And because my mind immediately goes to coffee, and every now and then I'll like an iced coffee or a cold brew, but my preference is always going to be leaning hot.
Okay.
So there you go.
I'm
and
with you
usually
there
if
as
I'm
well.
doing like an iced coffee or a cold brew, that one is like my second coffee of the day.
Yep. The morning coffee's gotta be hot.
It's gotta be hot.
100%. The afternoon coffee, if it's a warm day, if it's a bit of a treat, and even then, sometimes still a hot coffee for me.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'm right with you.
not unusual on a summer's day to find me with a refreshing cold brew in the afternoon.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. So there we.
Yeah,
I like
then-
that was your specific, was like that. You too. You were not given a specific, but your specific was coffee.
Well, and that's because frequently, if I'm being asked if I want something hot, it's because I'm ordering coffee, and the question is hot or iced, and that's the only time that I'm usually being asked that question, and it happens pretty frequently, and so that's just part of my life, and so I'm conditioned to be asked that question in a particular context.
And I would,
So there you go.
I would venture to say that most like it hot, but perhaps only some.
Perhaps only some. Well, you know what? Leave us a comment on Spotify or YouTube or wherever, however you're listening to this or watching this, and let us know, hot or cold? What do you prefer?
No specification from us necessary. Just hot or cold. You take it from there.
If you choose to elaborate and explain your reasoning, we'd love to hear it. You don't need to, though.
Or don't.
Or don't. And then also, you mentioned earlier that you are a high school teacher. I don't remember how specific you were, but you said you were a language arts teacher.
Yes.
I have taken it upon myself, maybe foolishly so, to begin our season 4 episodes, which season 4 is all movies that are full sentence titles.
Yeah.
Opening it up with a breakdown of a sentence.
It's great.
And its grammatical structure.
Love
and
it.
I am sweating bullets over here, feeling like I'm being graded by the English teacher on the other side of the screen.
Not to worry. I'm like, you're using a lot of technical terms that I'm embarrassed to say I do not use on a more regular basis, but I understand them.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, if ever you need to bust out the red pen, by all means, like, correct me after I'm finished and then go through and just be like, well, actually,
Yeah, no,
that's okay.
And it's funny because in this context, I'm so much more likely to do that if I hear something, like I feel like in our last season, if you were talking about certain movies or backgrounds of certain things, and I was like, oh no, actually there were 4 times that this happened, or it would be some. So,
Yeah.
But no, I will absolutely. I feel like I'm doing us all a service if I do this honestly, because like this is a chance for everybody to learn. This is a podcast where you don't just learn about movies or talk about movies. We can learn about some other things here as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, John, if I may, before we get into Some Like It Hot, because this here podcast is all about, it is about our love of movies first and foremost. Let us be
Absolutely. Yeah.
clear about that. But also our gimmick, if you will, is to address how to expand on the stories, the characters, the settings, sometimes the source material, et cetera, et cetera. We've gone down so many roads in our how many episodes, how much time, I don't know, but
Well, this is episode 309.
309. It is directly behind you. I'm looking at it and it says 309. So how could I
There
say
it is,
I don't know? So here we are. And So I feel like it is, and we used to talk a little bit more about your recent things that we've been watching, and that just hasn't been a focus as much. But because this is relevant, I would like to talk about a movie that I saw, and I would like to just voice some opinions. And there are going to be spoilers. There are going to be spoilers. So if you have not seen Wicked for Good and you are planning to or care about spoilers, skip ahead a little bit. So I'll be concise.
Yeah. I have not seen it. I probably will, but I think I'm okay with certain things being spoiled.
And that is the assumption I was working under. And forgive me for making that assumption without asking, but
totally okay.
Yes. I would find a way to be a lot more vague, but I'm going to be specific. So anyway, and I will this will be my forward, is that I did not see the first Wicked movie. I did not see the musical. I did not read the book. So in terms of the movie itself, my opinion is not, I would say not as valid as others. So, but
you have this platform, so why not talk about it?
Exactly. So, and because we talk about these things, it did something, and I'm sure this is done in the book as well, Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel. This is not done in the L. Frank Baum original stories.
Right.
And what they do is they show how the Cowardly Lion, Tin Man, and Scarecrow are all connected to the whole backstory of the Witches of Oz, to Elphaba and Glinda, and because so the whole reason why the Cowardly Lion is cowardly is apparently because Elphaba took him from he was in I guess his parents, I don't know, were gone, and she had taken him, and he wasn't allowed, the lion wasn't given a chance to learn how to survive on its own and learn how to be a lion, because I guess Elphaba took it and took care of it or something. I don't know. I told you I don't have all of the backstory, but I was like, okay, what? And then the Tin Man was a munchkin who, now the character of Bach was in the original books, but not in the L. Frank Baum, but not in this context. Right. In Wicked, Bach is a munchkin who is also at this Shiz University, which is where they
which I have issues with.
Yes, indeed. And he is there, and Nessa, who is the Wicked Witch of the West's sister, the Wicked Witch of the East, who we know the house falls on her. Nessa, who's physically disabled, and falls in love with Bach, but Bach is in love with Glinda, of course. And then this is how the Wicked Witch of the East becomes more tyrannical. And by the way, the whole thing reeks of, don't you recognize this as what's happening in America today? And which I'm I know, trust me, I'm woke. But also I don't need woked,
Right.
So, but my big pet peeve here was, so that now the Tin Man, and then she puts a spell on him, and Elphaba even tries to fix it and tries to reverse it, but she can't, and he becomes the Tin Man. And
so Bach is the Tin Man?
Right. Bach, who was the Wicked Witch of the East's love
crush,
and and then he wants to leave, he wants to go be with he finds out that Glinda is getting married to Fiyero, who's the head of the Osguards. Now just wait. Just wait. For anybody who has skipped ahead and you're hearing this, keep on skipping. Keep on skipping. So Bach wants to go off and tell Glinda before she gets married. So Nessa like basically signs an order saying like Munchkins aren't allowed to travel anymore. Like she puts a travel ban on Munchkins.
She puts a travel ban. Yep.
To like keep him there. And then she puts this spell on him. Elphaba is like trying to talk some sense into her. So like basically this whole thing is about how like Elphaba is just misunderstood. And which is not my pet peeve. My pet peeve is now they are all connected. So, and then the Tin Man just kind of like, he just kind of like goes out. They just like put him out. And now I know what you're wondering, the Scarecrow, right?
Sure.
So Fiyero, who's supposed to marry Glinda, is really in love with Elphaba and ends up choosing Elphaba.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he winds up having like the Osguards are now pursuing him because he's like a fugitive, and they hunt him down and they find him and like put him up. It's this weird like quasi crucifixion scene where they put him up and like they put some spell on him, and I think like Michelle Yeoh has something to do with it, and puts this like, I saw the movie a few days ago and I barely remember, and basically he becomes the Scarecrow.
Got it.
And at the end of the movie, and if you just skipped ahead to this point, skip ahead, like hit the forward 15 like twice more. Okay?
Okay, go on.
The end of the movie basically is the Scarecrow helping Elphaba fake her death and escape. So it ends with the two of them like walking off into this desert where all I was thinking was, oh my God, let a sandworm come up and eat them. Or like with Timothy Chalamet riding astride it.
Okay.
End of tirade.
Okay. What wonderful. It's funny that you should bring up Wicked 2 discourse. And before I say what I'm about to say, I'm not out there to yuck anybody's yum.
No.
I understand the appeal of Wicked. I saw the first one a few times. I do have an 8-year-old daughter, so that is bound to happen. And, there are certain things that I think are fine about it. But I was noticing recently, now that Wicked for Good has come out, that there's been a lot of chatter about people just being like, oh, I didn't realize the whole time that Dorothy was the villain, whatever. And to that, Dan, I have scripted out, and I've been kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this, but you've given me the perfect opportunity to do this.
Wonderful.
I have scripted out kind of a social media video that I was gonna, maybe record to put out on the Ruined Childhoods channels with your permission, of course. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read what I had written because it is appropriate. And for those of you who tuned in for Some Like It Hot, I promise you were getting there.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and read what I had written. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of Wizard of Oz discourse on here now that Wicked for Good is out in theaters, and I want to make sure that we're all clear on how the Wicked universe works. So the original 1900 Wizard of Oz book by L. Frank Baum is the source material. From there, we have some film adaptations, the 1925 film and the more famous 1939 film that we all know and love. Baum wrote other Oz books, but the only adaptations they had were for the stage and didn't really carry the weight of the original story. And the 1939 movie takes liberties, especially the ending that posits that it all took place in a dream. None of that is actually in the book. And even though it's not an official sequel, 1985's Return to Oz follows the thread that Oz exists in a dreamlike dimension, explaining how Dorothy was able to dream about it in the 1939 movie. So now let's talk about Wicked. It's not canon to Baum's series of books. It doesn't follow the path of the 1939 movie or Return to Oz. Instead, it's fan fiction. It's a story that includes Baum's characters and world, but it tells an entirely unique story. So when you're empathizing with Elphaba and villainizing Dorothy, it's not the Judy Garland Dorothy, it's someone else. You can still watch the 1939 Wizard of Oz without having to feel bad for the Wicked Witch of the West. So that is to say, Wicked is fan fiction. like the characters when you're saying, you know, the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, those versions are not the same versions of the characters in the Baum books or the Wizard of Oz movies or anything like that. So your childhood is not ruined. Dorothy is still the hero of those movies, and the Wicked Witch of the West, as envisioned by its creator, L. Frank Baum, is wicked. Now, the movie Wicked, Elphaba, those are all fan fiction. They are their own separate work inspired by the world of L. Frank Baum. Okay.
And that said, so I definitely still, and I'm not going to, I won't be specific anymore. So if you skip forward, don't worry about it. So just to be clear, my problem is with the trend that it uses. Now while I'm talking about it, let me also provide, I mean, effects wise, visually, it's, you know, spectacular. Cynthia Erivo has, like already, like we know she's got chops as a dramatic actress, and like I think she's just kind of like magnetic on screen. Ariana Grande, I thought, I mean, I'd seen her in like Don't Look Up, where she's kind of playing a like take on her own, like herself, or like that like pop singer.
She's a confusing person. I think
I would like to see her in a dramatic role. I would like to see Ariana Grande in a straight up, like in a like A24 something. I want to see her act because I really like her in Wicked. She's got like a wonderful presence. She was a great version of that character, originated by Kristen Chenoweth, who I never saw the show, but I would have loved to have seen Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel.
Yeah.
But
you know their vibes.
Right.
You get it.
Exactly. And I think I really like Ariana Grande in this.
The wickedly talented.
Oh, hello.
Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem.
Dazeem, yes. You know, I one time I started, I never finished it, I never went anywhere with it, but I started writing a short story about somebody with that name, like the day after those Oscars.
Yeah, might be a little too late to pick that one back up again.
No. I think actually, I feel like now it's a little kind of like it's funnier to go back to it. I think at that time it was so cringy, and now it's cringy. Yeah. But I also saw Travolta reenacting Grease Lightning in a commercial during some Thanksgiving Day football. So anyway, that's good though. I'm glad he is. That's good. I'm glad he's getting out. So.
Okay, sure.
Let's talk about Some Like It Hot.
Let's talk about like a truly original, fun piece of art that was made in the 50s that we can all agree is good, clean fun.
And speaking of something that had they done like a remake of this in the 80s, Travolta would have been an excellent choice.
Well, and I mean, not the 80s, but and not that it was a character who was a man posing as a woman, but in Hairspray, you know, John Travolta did a little bit of, I guess, gender bending. Oh yeah, for the purposes of the role.
Plays Edna Turnblad, yeah, of course,
absolutely.
As Divine originally,
right? And betterly and more appropriately.
Yep. Well, and Harvey Firestein in between there.
Harvey Firestein.
I actually have to say, I thought John Travolta was good in the Hairspray movie. I was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed the Hairspray movie.
Okay.
Whenever I saw
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah. Dan, what is your experience with Some Like It Hot? Was this your first watch?
This was my first watch. So my experience with Some Like It Hot is famously turning it on when I don't have the stamina or energy to watch a like comedy from this time that takes its time and has pace. And so my previous failings to watch it just had more to do with me as a viewer. So this was my first time watching it all the way through. What about you? What about you?
Yeah, well, I would say maybe when I was in college, I went through a pretty big Billy Wilder phase. Not to say it ever went away, but like it was the time where I was just like, oh, Billy Wilder's amazing. I need to absorb as much Billy Wilder as I possibly can.
And what was your first Billy Wilder?
Ooh, was it The Apartment? It might have been The Apartment. And we did a whole episode on The Apartment.
Mine was almost definitely The Apartment.
Yeah. I kind of just want to like go into all of the Billy Wilder movies and just be like, oh yeah, but then there's that one, and then there's that one, and then there's that one.
Like
I'm going to go ahead and do that.
That's an area where I need to do some work. And, Billy Wilder was, just to talk a little bit about him, an immigrant from what is now Poland, at the time Austria-Hungary.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, left, moved to Hollywood moved to Paris and then came to Hollywood in 1934.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he, so actually co-wrote the screenplay for Ninotchka.
Right. Yeah. And also, now that I'm looking at the filmography, it's kind of like an oh duh moment, but it's like, oh, Sunset Boulevard is definitely the first thing of his that really I watched, but the vibe of that I feel like is a little bit different from the works of his that I really took to.
Right. Yeah. There's some of his that have just always been on my to watch list. 7 Year Itch is another one. I don't think I realized he had directed that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw that. The Apartment was almost definitely the first thing of his that I saw. Double Indemnity. I definitely saw that in college, and again, different. And he's fantastic. Like, that's the thing is, like, I think Billy Wilder became known most for these, heartfelt comedies, things like the Apartment and Some Like It Hot, but really, and I would say like Sunset Boulevard, which is a comedic in a very different way, very dark.
Well, yeah, there's depth to his works, even when they are their silliest, and Some Like It Hot is definitely very silly, but when you watch it, you're also thinking right from the jump, like, oh, this is a really engaging, like visually engaging movie to watch. It begins with this whole chase sequence with a hearse and some cops, and you're just wondering, like, wait a second, I thought this was a movie about guys wearing women's clothing. What is going on?
Well, that's the thing is it starts in this really kind of fun way. It's set in Prohibition era Chicago. It starts in Prohibition era Chicago, known for gangland activity. And, this was definitely inspired by, Al Capone, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yep.
Not so subtly referenced in this, but it's also but we're set up from the beginning to know it's a comedy. The funeral parlor is Mozzarella's funeral parlor.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're kind of off to a silly start to begin with.
Well, even before we get to Mozzarella's funeral parlor, there's the moment when it's revealed that the casket that's being transported is filled with booze.
Oh, right. Yeah. The whole,
And there's all these holes in it, and it's just liquid pouring out, and it's just these bottles of booze. So I feel like that's the first moment of just like, oh, that's kind of funny,
Yeah, and it was, one of these like fun jazz, like upbeat, that it's a fun. It's a fun era to work with, and I think that especially that vibe in Chicago at that time. Knowing about it, and like the history of Chicago, especially during Prohibition, was lawlessness, because so many of I did a lot of research when I directed the musical Chicago, and there was such a sense of lawlessness because bringing liquor in, like Chicago's close to Canada, so it was really a center, and it was right on, the water, right on the river. So shipping your liquor, getting your liquor in from Canada, and then shipping it down river was. It made Chicago, and it made everybody who was involved in bootlegging really wealthy, which of course then that got passed on to, keep law enforcement off their backs. That's why they had to bring in the Treasury and Elliot Ness.
Yes.
Famously. So there was just this sense of like anything can happen. I mean, just like in the musical Chicago is based on real people. Yeah. Just like some of the gangsters in this are based on real people or inspired by.
Well, then why don't you give us a little synopsis and then we can get a little bit more into that.
All right. Musicians Joe and Jerry are eking by as members of a jazz band at a speakeasy nestled within a funeral parlor. But a raid puts them suddenly out of work. And after a chance encounter gassing up a car, Joe and Jerry become the sole witnesses of murders committed by Spats Colombo. And the only way to avoid their pursuers may be to accept jobs with a traveling all-female jazz band heading down to Florida. Now, as Josephine and Daphne, the guys are trying their best to fly under the radar, but they weren't expecting to meet Sugar, the band's singer who joined the group so that she couldn't get swept away by another deadbeat saxophone player. Joe, himself a sax man, can't help himself and insists on finding a way to woo Sugar. Meanwhile, Jerry as Daphne has caught the eye of a wealthy gadabout and can't help but get swept away by his advances. But their good times in disguise may be cut short when Spats tracks them down with the intent to finally take them out. As Joe, we have Tony Curtis. As Jerry, Jack Lemmon. As Sugar, Marilyn Monroe. As Spats, George Raft. And as Osgood, Daphne's suitor, we have Joe E. Brown. And as Sweet Sue, the leader of the all-girls band, Joan Shawley.
Yeah. Wow.
And
amazing.
And funny, my George Raft thing is George Raft was played by Joe Mantegna in Bugsy. So George Raft was notoriously like connected with a lot of these gangsters.
Oh,
he was
so
friends, he was like childhood friends, I think, with Ben Siegel.
Really?
Right, which is why George Raft is a supporting character in Bugsy.
That's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah. So he knew all these people.
Okay, well, let's talk about George Raft and Spats Colombo for a second. Because first of all, I got to say, he's great, and the name Spats Colombo is so amazing. He's named Spats because he wears spats, and the introduction to his character is when some booze is spilled onto his pristine white spats. Mm-hmm. Which, if you haven't seen the movie and if you don't know what spats are, it was those kind of white cloth,
like stirrups.
Yeah, it's almost like stirrups that kind of go over your beautifully shiny black shoes that kind of gives you just that extra little pop of like sophistication.
Yeah. And the whole spats thing, it pays off. It pays off. It's a great device.
The way that it introduces his character, but also is not just his name. Like the way that Billy Wilder wrote and directed that character is so thorough and brilliant and subtle in a lot of ways. And I really loved that whole, he may be my favorite character in the movie.
I think I might agree with you there.
Which is so funny because it's like you have Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe, who, and I will say for Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe more, I would say despite their flaws, but Jack Lemmon is, one of the greatest actors to have ever ever done it.
Yes.
And is so much fun and engaging, and all of his characters are always so magnetic and wonderful
likable.
and so likable.
Even when he's a curmudgeon, we've talked about grumpy old men. Even when he's like Jack Lemmon is always, he just has that quality about him. And, Wilder, I think, was really the director to see that. And of course they had so many collaborations.
So many.
And really, like, they were, they're a Scorsese De Niro I've been watching the Scorsese documentary on Apple Plus.
Oh, okay.
So I just watched the episode about but like, that is like the relationship to a performer and a director who complement each other well. And they both just try to help each other.
They get it.
Yeah.
They get what the other person's trying to do.
I would say that, so George Raft, I also love that George Raft plays this like he's just in a noir. Like, he could be you could take this performance and put it in Killer's Kiss and it wouldn't be out of place.
Killer's Kiss. Oh my God. Yeah. He doesn't like try for a second to be funny or let on that he's in a funny movie. No. He is just like,
because he knows, and also like, and some of his goons are, kind of humorous. Like, he's got the one guy with very distinctive looking face, and I wasn't able to have
great thuggish, henchmen.
Oh yeah.
They're all huge and they're great. They're so fantastic. They're really fun to watch and so well cast.
Yeah.
I really like them.
Yeah, terrific. And then, the Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe, despite their... Do you mean despite their flaws in their performances, or...
I would say as people.
Yeah. Which I would say, for Marilyn, I was just thinking, like, when I see her on screen, I can't help but, like, think about just how she was just submitted to this system, and how, like, she kind of never had a chance to begin with.
Yeah. There's, because we talked about her a lot when we talked about the Misfits. Yeah. And
I felt the same way watching that.
Yeah. And all the kind of the aura around her personal life overtakes the conversation about the movies that she's a part of. And the conversation becomes more about, well, Marilyn never learned her lines, and Marilyn was always late, and they had to do this and they had to do that, and this was the reason why this had to happen, and this is how great Billy Wilder is because he made her do this and he was able to get this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh God, it sucks that has to be the conversation. And I'm sure that there's more nuance to it than we'll ever know.
I mean, none of that, right? Like, just knowing, and I'm no expert. I know enough to know that by the time she was making this movie in 1958, because it comes out in 1959, by that time, she's in was it her third marriage? She was married to Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, her third marriage, and that's not on her. Like, she just seemed to be somebody who from the beginning, didn't really have a place and just relied on doing what people told her, and just like to keep a roof over her head and, food on the table.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be a lot cleaner if she did have like a Colonel Tom Parker type that was like the one individual that really kind of set her on a different path. But it's almost just like an entire, I don't know, system of people that set her on the course that she was in.
Exactly. It's right. It was like almost everybody who had some type of sway over her. Like, yeah, I mean, she was, her mother had, there were just issues there, and she never, stability was not largely not a thing for her. She got her mother in, like, it says, I'm on her Wikipedia page here, but in 1934, Marilyn's, not even 8 years old yet at that point. Gladys her mother is diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and committed to a state hospital. And her daughter, Marilyn, wasn't Marilyn then, Norma Jean, she becomes a ward of the state.
Yeah.
And living with different people. She may have been sexually abused. So this is not, this was a recipe for disaster. And the more the fame and all that, I don't need to go listen to Candle in the Wind.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And honestly, it's look, had she had a solid management team, perhaps things would have been a little different. Maybe she would have gotten the support she needed. Be that as it may, the conversation about her personal life has impacted.
We can end that right
the
here.
Narrative of the movie so much that we are doing it right now.
No, but
and
we're gonna.
So
but
all I will say, So all I will say is that, but when you see her on screen, you're just like, well, shit, I get it.
Yeah, and Billy Wilder said the same thing. He said the same thing. He's like, she's wonderful. Yeah. She's wonderful in the movie. Yeah.
Right. And would this movie be the same with somebody else in that role? I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think that having her in that part, it works so perfectly that it's really hard to imagine. Could I imagine somebody else in the Tony Curtis role? Yeah. Could I imagine somebody else in the Jack Lemmon role? Maybe. I wouldn't want to. Jack Lemmon's wonderful.
I was sitting there watching it and just thinking oh God, would it be better? Would I enjoy Walter Matthau in the Tony Curtis role? I was like,
oh God, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about, I don't, he doesn't, I think about him in A New Leaf, and I think about then him doing the Shell Oil thing that Tony Curtis does when he's pretending to be the son of which is funny. I think it's Belgian royalty who owned the Shell company. But it's it's fun. He's fine, but it could have been somebody else. And you know what? Since we did this for Marilyn, we gotta throw a little bit Tony's way too, because Tony's making this movie and allegedly having an affair with Marilyn, while his wife, Janet Leigh, is at home pregnant with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee, yeah. Well, the Marilyn thing also is a big fat allegedly.
Well, and also if he wasn't having an affair with her, chances are he was having an affair with somebody. And based on, I listened to an interview not too long ago with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she talks about him and says, what kind of person he was. So, of course, watching him, I have to kind of put that aside and think, man, that Tony Curtis is a real piece of shit. And I'm just not a huge...
Totally.
I don't love him. I'm trying to think of somebody present day who I kind of feel the same about as a performer, as an actor. Maybe a Luke Wilson, maybe, who it's they're all,
I don't know,
they're all right, and I'm fine with them. He's not
like a
in
Glenn Powell.
No, I feel like my jury is still out on Glenn Powell. I haven't seen
what
The
about
Running Man yet.
Chris Pratt, where it's just he's not
okay.
There's a lot of qualities things that you hear about him where you're just ugh, but I still want to watch some of his stuff.
I still will watch Parks and Rec and laugh at the Andy stuff. I can go back. I think I like Chris Pratt more than I like Tony Curtis, but it's an appropriate comparison in that regard.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, is he, could somebody else have done his role in this? Who else? Which one didn't Billy Wilder want Frank Sinatra in?
I think that Frank Sinatra was being considered actually for the Jack Lemmon role, if I remember reading that correctly. And Frank Sinatra, I think, was kind of big shotting things in a certain way. And he was afterwards was just saying I should have been in it and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I think Jerry Lewis was another one who
I could see Jerry Lewis
Yeah.
doing the Jack Lemmon role.
Like in the 1950s. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, I mean, it would have been like a Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. That would have been a really fun.
Dean Martin would have been good in the Tony Curtis role.
Yeah.
They're kind of similar dudes.
Like, yeah, smooth talking.
Yeah.
I feel like Dean Martin's smoother.
Totally. And
And funny.
He's got acting chops. He
Yeah.
can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, I mean, any of them, I mean, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, hell,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The Tony Curtis of it all, I think, was a little eye-rolly, and I didn't love his character because I just don't love characters who we're supposed to be rooting for who are
Gaslighting.
gaslighting women.
Yeah.
and yes, he does come clean and he tries to do the right thing afterwards and everything, and I don't really love the way that she's just like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah. It's like
give
you
it any of that.
blink and then she's just like, yeah, she's just there and it's like, oh, okay. Well, that resolved itself
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Yeah. And another thing that I think was a little off for me is that at the beginning of the movie, Tony Curtis's character, was it Joe?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's Joe. So Joe is all about trying to, he's got a sure thing at the racetrack that of course doesn't come through. He's the one that's always trying to find the how to weasel your way into like getting some money.
Yeah.
And Jerry is the one who's just like, I don't know about that, but goes along with it anyway. And so when Jerry as Daphne is the one who is kind of getting into this relationship with this wealthy weirdo in order to marry him and take his money and then bail. That to me seems like a Joe kind of move, kind of weaseling your way to like make some money. So
although
that to me was like, I wish that maybe at the beginning we would have established that Jerry was the one with all of the schemes to try to like, get the money. That would have sat better with me.
But also, and I know he says he's going to do that, but he does seem he kind of seems genuinely into Osgood, though.
He kind of does. I mean, he likes the dude. Certainly there's not going to be a conversation of somebody questioning their sexuality in a movie of this nature.
Quite the opposite, in fact. They actually explicitly say, like, what he says, why would a man want to marry another man?
Oh, right. But like there wouldn't, I'm saying questioning it for himself of being like, is this something that I'm learning about myself?
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting though, because I feel like we don't see that represented in movies, but Billy Wilder was also one of those filmmakers who knew how to get things in there. And it comes back to the last line of the movie.
Yeah.
And how when Osgood
Nobody's
finds
perfect.
out that Daphne's I'm a man, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Which was such a wonderful, it was so great.
Yeah, and to that I would say that Osgood, it's Osgood, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Osgood. Osgood to me seems like somebody who is, I don't know, pansexual, demisexual.
Doesn't give
something
a
like
damn.
Doesn't care about the, the shell of the person. It's more about who the person is on the inside.
Yeah.
And there's something about Daphne, which is really just something about Jerry that he can't get enough of, and doesn't care one bit that, it's not exactly the visual of the person that he thought that he was. Doesn't even blink an eye.
Nope.
Yeah. So kudos,
That's pretty cool
in that way. And I'm sure that there's plenty of analysis on what that all means and implies and where this kind of stands in, film history or pop culture history about representation of love is love, And yes, it's played for laughs, but it's not done necessarily in a way that's like crazy offensive.
Right.
Now, of course, people could pick apart this movie for so many different reasons, for, you know, portrayals of men masquerading as women. I'm certainly not an expert on this. I don't consider this drag because they are not pretending to be women for the entertainment value of the people around them in a
Right.
I guess over the top performance kind of a way. Yes, it's a movie, but in the reality of their story. So it's not like, you know, Tu Wong Fu or Priscilla Queen of the Desert, or, you know,
I don't know if you would,
like that we see.
Right. And I don't know if I don't know if you would use the term cross-dressing. I feel like that term is not used as much anymore.
Yeah.
Even then, I mean, you could you could say disguise,
because masquerading.
Masquerading.
Yeah. Because yes, they're not doing it for any reason other than to
survival,
serve a purpose as survival. And that's kind of how I see things for Mrs. Doubtfire. And it's in a lot of ways, this movie is less similar to something like Mrs. Doubtfire than it is to something like Sister Act, where it's people who are, you know, masquerading as something that they aren't in order to survive.
You know what I found?
Actually, this movie and Sister Act are extremely similar.
Very similar. Yeah. Another movie that this like somehow reminded me of, it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh,
in a weird way of like, I think of how he ends up like in that audition, how like Robert Downey Jr.'s character ends up, how he's like, he's on the, it's been a while since I've seen it, but
yeah,
I have some memory of him like just kind of like stumbling into this and ending up like stumbling into like being in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me and the interplay, I think just like, you know, the buddy relationship in general, which we know Shane Black worked, has worked so well with in so many movies.
Yeah. Right. So I saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in the theater within the past year, and at shout out Cinemagic Theater here in Portland, Oregon. And it's just so much fun to watch. And, Robert Downey Jr. is so good in this movie. And he is on the run from, I think that he's robbing a store with some people and he's being chased by the cops. And he just goes through a door and there's an audition going on, and it's for somebody who's on the run, and he's just genuinely saying like all this stuff, and the casting agents are just like, who is he? He's going method. I love this. You know, it's perfect. And then the cops come in and they're like, oh, sorry. You know? It's great. It's really great, and it's done so well. And I mean, that's when Val Kilmer plays a character who's gay. Well, it's but it's not in a way that we typically have seen, at least at that point, a lot of gay characters. You know, there's, you know, nothing he's not falling into stereotypes
other than it being part of his name. His nickname.
Yeah, but he embraces the nickname.
And I'm like, is it like it's either self-applied or he embraces it? So
I think he embraces it. Yeah.
Right. No. It's not. It's just like a thing about that character as a person that has nothing to do with the story, really.
Yeah. Totally. Gay Perry is the name.
Right, Gay Perry, right. And it just kind of reminded me like I kind of felt that vibe in it, especially in that feeling of escape. I mean, you know, not entirely, but also just the chemistry. And actually, I think Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer have better chemistry than Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis.
Yeah, and Jack Lemmon's doing a lot of heavy lifting. I think too.
Well, and I thought Jack Lemmon and Marilyn had great chemistry. The scene where they're in the bunk on the train.
Oh my God, it's so much fun.
So good. Oh, it's so great. Right. And you know, although that's the other thing is if Jerry was the one to be so scheming, he wouldn't necessarily be so panicked. If it was Joe in that position, Joe would have just been Joe would have given it away in 2 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So before we get on to kind of how we would revisit the movie, I do want to talk about some of the things that have been done with Some Like It Hot. So in 1961, which is just after this, an unsold television pilot was filmed, and Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis agreed to do cameos, returning as their original characters. And this is all according to Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at that. Yeah, Victimone.
Yeah, so, in 1975, there was a Bollywood remake.
Okay.
Released as Rafu Chakar. 1984, stage production at the Claridge Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City, with Joe Namath, CC and Company's Joe Namath as Joe. I'm sorry, we did an episode on the movie CC and Company starring Joe Namath.
If you have no idea
one else has.
what that is, that is a movie. CC
and
Company.
Margaret. Yeah.
Check it out.
1991, there was a stage production featuring Tommy Steele. And that was in London. Tony Curtis was in a 2002 stage production of the film as Osgood.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate that he did that.
Yeah.
So there was the Some Like It Hot musical, in 1972 musical Sugar, based on the film screenplay, opened on Broadway. Elaine Joyce, Robert Morse, Tony Roberts, Cyril Richard. And 2019, there was going to be a new one written.
Yeah.
But it looked like there were COVID delays. I don't know.
It opened in... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It was very successful.
Booked by Matthew Lopez and Amber Ruffin. I didn't realize that she was a writer on that. Yeah. Won
Mark
4
Shaman,
Tony Awards.
Mark Shaman did the music. Yeah.
Very cool.
And fittingly, J. Harrison Gee, who played, I think, Jerry at Daphne, became the first openly non-binary actor to be nominated for and win a Tony Award.
That's awesome.
Also, along with Alex Newell for Shucked, that I believe was in the same season.
That's really cool. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense to do something like this on the stage. It's a farce. There's so much, there's so much you can do with all the music. It takes place within the world of music, so it's like
opportunities for songs.
Yeah. So Dan, I think that musical is kind of off the table for how we would revisit this one. So what would you do?
Definitely. Well, I think this would be a good opportunity to do a kind of behind the scenes, but I would like to see it more as a movie. Like, it would be fun to see a movie about the making, but what I would not want, and this comes before our discussion already, is for it to focus on Marilyn.
I mean, how do you avoid that? That's the thing.
You avoid it by focusing on Billy Wilder, and you focus on the ringmaster rather than the circus, and focus on that, and have Billy Wilder. And I think you could make a fun movie out of this and just do some fun stunt casting about it. Like, make it a little old fashioned. I would want it to be more like, I know that they did the one about the Prince and the Showgirl, My Week with Marilyn, with like Eddie Redmayne and Michelle Williams. We don't need that. We've had enough movies about Marilyn and about Marilyn making the movies and things like that. You could make a making of about this movie and like maybe go into that idea of how do you push boundaries when you're working within a strict code, when you have a studio that you need to please. How do you do this when you're working with, how do you manage the actors? How do you have someone like Jack Lemmon, who's not a bankable star.
Right. Yeah.
You've got, a philandering Tony Curtis, I guess. And I feel like, so for this, casting would be really important. And, so I landed on, I think I would love to see Christoph Waltz as Billy Wilder.
Okay.
I think you have someone, first of all, could, accurately, perhaps more accurately, do the voice. I feel like
I think so.
although I
Yeah.
don't know if he'd be too old. That's the one thing, is I don't know if he would be too old at
Yeah.
this point. That only just hit me just now, as he was born in 1906. So he would have to be in his like mid 50s. So
Yeah.
actually, Christoph Waltz would be.
You could age down Christoph Waltz a little bit.
Yeah.
To
He
make that
actually,
convincing.
yeah. Might be a little too old, but and I have to admit, I needed some help on casting. I was like, who are some actors in these? So I have to credit ChatGPT. I got some suggestions.
Okay.
I got some suggestions, and I can't claim them
Okay.
as my own. But Jonathan Groff as Tony Curtis, I am a big Jonathan Groff fan.
Dan, you mentioned at the top of the episode about, things that we've been watching, and I have been watching Mindhunter, starring Jonathan Groff.
Yes,
We can talk about that off mic another time.
Oh, we will.
But he's so good, and knowing what he can do with characters very different from his character in Mindhunter, it makes me appreciate even more his portrayal of Holden.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, such a good job.
So Jonathan Groff, he's great. I like him a lot.
And the suggestion that I went with for Jack Lemmon, also because I like this performer so much, is Daniel Radcliffe.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
And I know, okay, physically, I feel like you could make that work, but I feel like he could get, after seeing what he did with Weird Al,
yeah, it doesn't matter if he looks like him.
and I know he and Jonathan Groff have worked together and have Merrily We Roll Along, which the filmed version of that is being released soon.
Sure. Yeah.
So to see them and then as Marilyn Monroe, because that would be a role that you would want to get, a known entity for. I think Lily James, would be a good choice. Samara Weaving, I think, is maybe a little more interesting than Lily James. I feel like we've seen, even though Lily James hasn't played Marilyn Monroe, I feel like she has.
Yeah, for a second ago, I was just like, wait, there was just that one Marilyn movie, Blonde, and I was like, oh, that was Ana de Armas.
Ana de
That
Armas,
was really weird. Yeah,
I didn't see that, but
I watched, I think, half of it, and
it didn't look like
I'm okay.
It looked very sensational, and it very exploitative, and that wasn't. What
it also indicates these are not things that we're saying it happened to Marilyn Monroe. It's kind of like a pseudo fan fiction about Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need that, but it would be nice to get her, and this is where the writing on a project like this would be really important, is to actually, without making her story central, still. Billy Wilder must have had some sympathy for her. I feel like he had, because he had worked with her already. So maybe the focus, maybe her character in this is almost as I don't know, a surrogate daughter, somebody that he cares for and that he wants to give opportunities to.
Well, and just kind of piggybacking off of your suggestion, I wonder also if it would be worth it to do a movie, because it's fun to do movies about Hollywood in the golden age of Hollywood. And so just to have a movie about the making of a movie that isn't Some Like It Hot, but it is a fictional movie that doesn't really exist, where it's, it's a struggling, not so much struggling, but an immigrant director, who is trying to make movies and trying to cast people that the studio doesn't want him to cast, is kind of going out for just I don't know, the people that he finds interesting rather than the people who the studio really wants him to get, and kind of going against all of their best efforts to stymie his creativity.
Well, that's what you do if you can't get the rights to Some Like It Hot or any of the likenesses. Yeah. No, I see. Yeah. No. I mean, and I guess essentially that's the story that I'm looking at to tell here.
Right.
is this the director who's also like, he's got a reputation in Hollywood. He's won Academy Awards, and what is he? How much at risk is his career with each thing? And just kind of also remembering that even your legendary filmmakers, even once they're established, like one bad movie can put you in director's jail. So you piss off the wrong person, you do, so many classics. We've heard the story so many times where if one thing had been done differently, it would have been nothing. It would have failed. And those directors, we wouldn't, talk about Francis Ford Coppola today,
absolutely.
Repeatedly famous example.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but Billy Wilder,
I'm looking at Billy Wilder's, filmography, and he didn't have anything in 1958, but in 1957 released 3 movies: The Spirit of St. Louis, Love in the Afternoon, which was a hit, and Witness for the Prosecution, which I believe was also a pretty big success.
Yeah.
I don't know how well Spirit of St. Louis did. I mean, Jimmy Stewart, Charles Lindbergh, I think that was
classics.
Generally well received.
While Charles Lindbergh was still, better respected.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like coming off of 3 hits, and it's like,
I mean, Sabrina. Look at that. He's got Sabrina on there. Stalag 17.
Sabrina a few years before. Yep.
Yeah.
7-Year Itch. Yeah.
I mean, the 50s, man, he is just banger after banger.
Well, yeah. So Billy Wilder himself, it's not like he, I think, was in too much danger.
Shit, maybe I just want a movie about Billy Wilder.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, or give me like
make it a series. What a great person.
Make it a series. He worked for decades.
Yeah,
make an introspective. Like show us about Billy Wilder. We're learning. We get these great things. This Scorsese documentary that Rebecca Miller did, and there've been great documentaries on Spielberg and De Palma and all that. And I'm sure there's stuff on Wilder, but let's give us maybe a dramatization. Play around with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you going to do?
I don't know if there's... Well, that's the problem is I was trying to think of is there a version of a remake, or, you went kind of the making of route. I don't think that I kind of go to the things that I maybe have gone to in the past where it's like, would it work as a graphic novel? And it's like, no, I don't think that would work out so well. But where I ultimately did land, and this is, I think, going to be a new one for us, but a weekly serialized comic strip.
Okay. Tell me.
Following the adventures of Joe and Jerry, and you know what? Maybe at some point they do masquerade as women in this jazz club or whatever, but maybe there's some other incident that happens where they witness another thing and they have to masquerade as something else. And I feel like it's funny to kind of go along on that journey with them. And I kind of like the idea of it just being 4 panels and we're out. They have a little badoom, and then we're good.
These 2 guys who are just constantly getting into situations where they have to mask. It's kind of like Die Hard, where it's like, man, again?
Yeah. They've got so many wigs, you wouldn't believe it.
We have to dress up as chefs in a fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like a Lucy and Ethel vibe. I love it.
Yeah, kind of. But I was thinking comic strip, because I don't want real people doing it. I just want, illustrations.
You want old school style, comic strip? I'm picturing like an old, the old
Doonesbury.
Oh shoot! I was thinking Little Lulu style.
Oh no! I think more realistic looking depictions of the people, but in the 1950s. Yeah. Well,
exactly.
You know what I mean.
Yes.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of where I landed on it, because this is one where it's kind of tricky, because in our current times, we've kind of done the whole, oh, it's funny when men dress as women to get away with certain things. And it's like, 1959, okay, whatever. But we are in a post whatever that is world.
You know what? Let me say to anybody who, if that's your thing, if you're, there is plenty of that to go back to.
Plenty of that to go back to.
We don't need new.
And I'm sure that the most recent Broadway productions of it were more thoughtfully put together
and diversely cast, by the way.
And diversely cast. So that's great. And that's all it should be. So anyway, for those of you who are listening or watching on YouTube or Spotify, thank you so much. Let us know what you would do with Some Like It Hot by leaving us a comment or emailing us at ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you can leave us a review. And Dan, why don't you tell us what sentence we're going to be talking about on the next episode?
Oh, our next sentence is a question. And the question we are asking is, dude, where's my car?
Sweet.
We've been asking, dude.
Chibi.
We've been doing this. The question we've been asking.
What does mine say?
We will talk about it on the next episode, but since 2000, so from 2000 with Danny Liner directing, Ashton Kutcher, Sean William Scott, Jennifer Garner, Andy Dick, and some ostriches. And a
stoned dog.
A wacky movie. Dude, Where's My Car? Which celebrated, by the time this episode will be released, we'll have just celebrated its 25th anniversary.
That's bananas.
A quarter of a century.
My car can rent a car.
Of Shibby.
Well, Dan, as you are zipping away on a yacht that doesn't belong to you, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.